this course, I'm going to talk a lot about rules and things that you should do and things that you shouldn't do. Now, with creative endeavors, I believe that you have to understand the rules, but also rules are made to be broken. And it's fine to break those rules as long as you understand them. If you decide, right, well, I'm going to break a particular rule and make something look a bit weird and off, but I deliberately made it look weird and off because I wanted to create a certain feeling for my audience, that's fine. But if you made your audience feel weird and you don't understand why, well, that's not very good. So that's why I'm going to tell you these rules, but all of these rules can absolutely be broken because it all depends on how you want your audience to feel and how you want your video to look. One of those rules is that you should never edit something that you've shot. Now obviously that seems like a very silly rule because most of us are going to edit what we've shot. So what's that rule all about? Here's what it's about. As a cinematographer or a videographer or a shooter, a camera op, whatever you want to call yourself, your job is to capture the most beautiful footage and the most beautiful shots. As a video editor, your job is to tell a story in the most concise and precise way possible. Those are two conflicting agendas, because when you're editing a video, there might be the most amazing shot of a drone going over the trees and revealing the mist coming over the mountains and a beautiful sunrise, and it took 3 hours in the freezing cold to get that shot. But as an editor, you look at that and go, oh, you know what, the shot's not working for the story, we're going to cut the shot. And the cinematographer's sitting and going, what do you mean we're going to cut the shot? It's 3 hours and drone, it's beautiful. And the editor's going, it doesn't help drive the story, it's getting cut. So the rule of you should never edit something that you've shot comes from the idea of when you're editing, you have to take your cinematographer hat off, put your editor hat on, and be absolutely brutal with the footage. You have to be able to kill your darlings because no matter how amazing the shot is, if it doesn't help tell the story, it doesn't stay in. Let's talk a little bit about money. Now I'm going to be referring to a lot of different gear and things like that, particularly in the next chapter. And I think as a photographer, you might be coming across to video and going, oh, everything's so expensive. But you know, expensive is a relative term. I'll give you an example. I remember chatting to a photographer mate of mine a couple of years ago when Miller tripods, I used them, I quite like them. Miller tripods had just come out with a new really sort of ultralight tripod, and it was only, I think, about $1,500. And my photographer mate almost fell off of his chair because to a photographer, $1,500 seems like a ridiculous price for a tripod. And for me, anything under $3,000 for a tripod is a really good price. But that's because we need different things from tripods. So for example, a photography tripod just needs to sit there and be solid and keep still. Whereas a video tripod generally needs to be even more solid because video cameras are heavier than photography cameras. But also, instead of a ball head, you need to be able to have smooth pans and smooth tilts and smooth movements with the head of a video tripod as opposed to a stills tripod. I'm going to show you some B-roll while I'm talking about this to give an example of how I'm trying to get some footage off of this tripod, and this is a typical ball head for stills. Now it's a great ball head for stills, but you can see with the video, it's really hard to get smooth movement with the video. Now I'm going to show you some footage of me using a fluid head on a tripod, and you'll see how the movement is far smoother and it's far easier to get those beautiful shots that you want to get with that. So you can see here I've got my camera on your typical sort of ball head, and this is actually quite a good ball head. In fact, it's a really good ball head for photography. It gives you a lot of great options and it's pretty strong. I mean, I could have my camera pointed, you know, all the way down, and this isn't the lightest lens in the world, but there you go, it's locked off. I could have it pointed up and it's locked off, so that's fine. But as soon as I want to move the camera around, that's when things get a bit wonky for video. So you could probably do some pans quite easily, but the thing is, there's no tension on there like there is in the fluid head. So even when I'm trying to pan like this, it's not pushing against me, so it's very easy for me to over push it, if that makes sense. And then when we try and do a tilt up and down, well, there's no tension against me. So again, I could do that. So I mean, it's better than nothing, so it's probably better than handheld in some instances not. But for video, it's really not ideal. If you're just going to have it for interviews, yeah, absolutely, tripod like that is absolutely fine. But if you want to do any sort of moving shots, this type of tripod is not the one that you want for video. And at the very least, this is not the type of head that you want for video. And so this is more of a video tripod. As you can see, it's a pretty solid tripod. It will give me lots of tension on my fluid head, so my rotation is nice and smooth. I've got the arm to help me kind of move around so I'm not holding the camera directly, and then when I loosen it, again, I've got a little bit of tension, and I can adjust the level of tension over on this side, so I can have more tension, or that's less tension. I can have more tension, and again, one of the reasons why you want a really sturdy, strong tripod and strong head when you're doing video, this setup, as you might imagine, weighs a little bit, so I can do something like this. If I want to do a low shot, lock it off, and it's locked off, and it's actually going to hold it there just fine. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you how much all of this costs, but you definitely want something strong and solid so that it's not going to, you know. Then we talk about lenses, and this is one of the things that's really cool about the industry, and probably why we're having this sort of one-way conversation and why you bought this course. Up until the Canon 5D Mark II, to get a video camera that had a video lens that gave you beautiful shallow depth of field would cost you anywhere sort of over $20,000, $30,000 and above. Whereas when the 5D Mark II came out, it was one of the first cameras that you could put still lenses on, which are relatively cheap compared to video lenses, and you could actually record high quality HD video. It started a revolution because suddenly you could get really good video out of a stills camera, and the stills camera and still lenses cost so much less than video stuff. Now, a lot of people ask me what's the best camera to use for video, and my answer with most things is the best camera for video is the camera you can afford. Now, the way I look at gear is there's nothing you can't do with I've got my iPhone over here, and most things that I shoot, I could shoot with my iPhone. Obviously, it's a lot easier and a lot quicker to shoot with my fancier, more expensive cameras. And there are some things that you can't do with this and you can do with that and so on. But most of the things you can do with just about any camera. I remember a couple of months ago, I'm a member of the Australian Cinematographer Society, and I was at a meeting. Yes, we have meetings. There's coffee and biscuits. It's like AA, but with more expensive gear. And there was this young film student who was at the meeting. He was chatting to me and another cinematographer, and he was going, oh, I've got these really cool ideas, but I can't film them because I can't afford to rent whatever fancy camera he wanted to rent. And both of us kind of looked at him and said, have you got a camera on your phone? He was like, yeah. I was like, well, you've got a camera. Go out and shoot it. Like, it doesn't matter what gear you have. If you've got a good story, you can work out a way to tell that beautifully through video, no matter what gear you have. Having said that, the more expensive the gear you have, the more fancy stuff you can do, and the easier and quicker it'll probably be to do it.